I just got back from Stockholm, and it has to be one of the most underrated cities in all of Europe, but there are some things that I wish I had known beforehand, so I'm going to share all that with you today. First thing is, yes, you should expect this place to be a bit more expensive than other European cities. You are going to feel a little bit of squeeze in your wallet, but don't worry, I'm here to help. So the first thing to do is use the public transportation. It's one of the best systems in the entire world, and it starts with getting from the airport to downtown. And if you're wondering how to do that, there's not really a better option than the Arlanda Express. It's a train that you will not be able to miss the signs when you grab your bags from the airport. There'll be spots all over to buy your tickets. You can do it right on your phone, or you can actually just walk straight down into the train station and buy it. It's super easy to find, really reliable, and it's a direct train right to the city center, so you can't mess anything up. Just get on that train and you're all set to go. But what about once you're actually downtown, and what are you going to use to get around the rest of the trip? Well, that's where the metro comes into play. It is one of the easiest metros I've ever used anywhere, and I move to a new country every month. I use a lot of public transit, and this is such an easy system. You should not be intimidated at all, and there are a couple really unique things about the Stockholm transit system. The metro, they actually create their metro stops and kind of create these like art galleries, so each metro stop is kind of like an experience in and of itself. They're so cool that some people have actually put together guides where it'll show you like, all right, hop on this line and stop at these stations to see all the beautiful art. I went to like maybe 10 of them. They were all wonderful, but that was just a fraction of what Stockholm has to offer, so keep that in mind, especially if it's a cold day. But how are you actually going to use the public transit system? How are you going to buy your tickets for the metro, and what should you be doing? Well, what I did was bought one of these things. This is a card where any metro stop, there's going to be an attendant where you can go and say, hey, I want a 24 or 48 hour pass, load me up on this card. They'll give this to you, and you can just tap right in and out every time you use the metro. Super simple. But what if you don't feel like you're going to get the value out of a true like day pass? What if you don't want one of these things? Well, that's okay. You don't have to use this. In fact, this can save you $2 because this thing, they're going to charge you about $2 for that. Instead, you can always just use your phone. The same place that you'd scan that green card going in, you can just hold your phone up to it and it will automatically charge you just a single ticket fare. If you don't use your phone, you can always just tap a credit card. So the public transit system really could not be easier. Don't let it intimidate you. But one more money saving tip, and this is kind of food related, is a lot of the places have great food. They are a little bit expensive, but lunch is actually the time where you can save a little bit of money. A lot of the nicer restaurants will have a lunch menu that is a fraction of the price. So if you're good with eating earlier, great. And this is going to come back later in the food tips because there's some more stuff to know about that. But let's jump into some of the cultural differences that you should be aware of. Fika is a really big part of Swedish culture, and it is so special. And what it is in the afternoon, people take a little break from work, they go to a coffee shop, they grab some coffee or tea and a pastry, and they just socialize, talk with friends, relax, take a minute to just breathe. And fika culture, I mean, you can lean into it hard. I certainly did. I had so many pastries, such good coffee, and I will have some specific recommendations coming up, but make sure that you're aware of that fika culture and make sure to partake in it because it really is special. Another thing to keep in mind when you're getting your fika is with coffee, this really caught me off guard. Even though Stockholm is a pretty expensive city, they do free refills on pretty much all coffee. So keep that in mind and enjoy your fika. Next thing to know is that healthy food is really easy to find in Stockholm. I found everything to be really high quality, lots of vegan options, but also just a lot of high quality ingredients. So don't feel like this is a place where you're only going to be eating the fika, all the sweet pastries. Yes, you're going to have that, but don't worry, there's plenty of healthy stuff as well. But one thing that I kind of screwed up and I wish I had known about was that the Swedish eat dinner a lot earlier than most other European countries do it, and it left me scrambling on a few occasions. There's so much to see in Stockholm that I was exploring the city. It gets to like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'm like, I might want to start thinking about dinner, and I could not find places. I was going from one place to another, and they're like, sorry, kitchen's closed, this place is full. So just be ready for earlier dinners and also make some reservations, especially if it's at those nicer places. In my experience, I've found that you're actually going to need those, so just keep that in mind. And another thing that I kind of screwed up, if you're wanting a sauna experience like me, Unfortunately, you do need to kind of reserve those ahead of time, do your research and book before your trip. I made that mistake, and unfortunately there was just no availability for me when I went on any of the days. So do your research ahead of time, book ahead if you do want that experience. And maybe one of the most important cultural pieces to note about Stockholm is that it really seems to revolve around just the nature and the scenery. So save yourself some time for long walks. This is just a gorgeous place to just wander, explore. There's beauty everywhere, forests, paths, water, I mean, just like everything. And we're about to jump into some of those recommendations. So the first place that I highly recommend you get to, there's this beautiful little like garden allotment. I don't know if they actually call it a garden allotment, but I'm putting it on the map. Think of it as this little tiny neighborhood where there are really cute cottages overlooking the water, and each cottage grows just these beautiful gardens. They can grow whatever they want, and they are stunning. Just a beautiful little area to stroll through. It overlooks the water where you'll see people like, swimming if it's in the summer months, and it's beautiful. It also is like right on top of the Hornstullstrand, which is this beautiful street, kind of a trendy area, a lot going on, and just a fun place to hang out. So highly recommend checking out that area. Another gorgeous place to take a walk is over in Kungsholmen. There is this stretch of street that is like right up against the coast. It is gorgeous, beautiful walkway. There are like these kind of piers that go in like right out onto the water, and you can just sit and read there. Just like a gorgeous place, really local area, highly recommend. And for a couple of these places, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name because I do not speak Swedish and I don't want to screw these up too bad, but I'll have the names of all of them so you can write them down. But another spot is this beautiful garden area. These gardens kind of have like these greenhouses where they have some food options, little stores, but the gardens are expansive, just gorgeous. And this is on that main island where you're going to find most of the nature. You have to make a trip over there. It is well worth it. And there'll be a couple other things coming up from that area in just a second. But if you're wondering where are some great spots to see a sunset, well, I've got two for you. The first is called Skinner Vixenberget. I don't know, I probably screwed that up, but gorgeous place. There's going to be a lot of people that kind of hike up there. It's kind of up on this like tower, up on these rocks. You overlook the water, and it is gorgeous. Perhaps my favorite is a really short walk away, and you can hit both of these, and it's this little stretch that you can walk along. Different type of view. You can see a lot more of the buildings, and it's like a pathway. It just feels like you're a bit more in nature there rather than just like up on rocks. And it is also absolutely stunning. No reason to miss either one of those, both well worth your time. But let's talk about some of the places that you will have to pay for, but I do think are worth it. The first one is the Vasa Museum. And if you don't know what the Vasa Museum is, this huge ship, it was sunk for a long period of time, and they managed to find this thing, get it out of the water, and they have preserved it in this museum. It is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in my life. I highly recommend it. It is well worth it. Right next to it, you have something called Skansen, and it's kind of a hard thing to like put your finger on how to describe it. There's like a zoo element, there's like a cultural preservation piece of it where you have like kind of an old Swedish town. You can kind of see like what roles certain buildings played. Like you're all in nature. It's just this really cool open air place. Great for kids and families if you're looking for something like that, and I'd highly recommend. But my absolute favorite museum was actually the Photograph Museum, and just really, really well done. Beautiful building, wonderful exhibits, and they're constantly changing, but different area of town, whole different experience. And what I love about this museum is they're open at night. So I did go for a night experience, and one of those times when I was scrambling at night trying to find dinner, well, luckily that museum has a restaurant out like sitting overlooking the water, and it was beautiful, pretty affordable as well, really high quality. So that'll actually be the first like food recommendation, and we'll jump into those as well. So let's first start with some of those coffee places and spots that you can grab some fika. So Drop Coffee is over in the Södermalm area. Wonderful, felt very local, definitely like a digital nomad scene, lots of folks working there, a lively atmosphere, but good filtered coffee and great pastries, no complaints there. If you're up in Kungsholmen, there's a wonderful little coffee shop called Volka Coffee, and they also focused on specialty coffee and also had a pretty expansive food menu, really good stuff, so definitely recommend them. If you're looking for a cafe where you can kind of get it all, some food, some coffee, some pastries, kind of everything, Cafe Pascal is wonderful. They've got a couple locations, and once again, really good coffee, and they do have those free refills. I definitely partook and I enjoyed it very much, so thank you, Cafe Pascal. If you're more in the central part of town and you're looking for some really good fika, some great pastries, there's a bakery called Stora. It is by no means a hidden gem. It is going to be packed with people, but they've got a really nice patio, indoor seating as well, and really good stuff. But if you're looking for the best pastries in all of town, you're gonna have to work a little bit harder up in the Vasastan neighborhood, which is a little bit further out. There's this little place called Little Brar's Bakery. Phenomenal. I mean, like, this is what a pastry should be. Highly recommend it. It is well worth your visit up there. You can almost just like taste the butter oozing out of the croissants and the pastries. Like, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And if you're looking for more of like a fancy night out and wanting to get your drink on, there is a place called Lucy's Flower Shop, and it's a speakeasy. It was rated like a top 50 bar in the world. Really cool atmosphere and kind of unpretentious, which doesn't always come with the territory of those top 50 places. So definitely recommend them. It was a good experience. But let's talk about where you should actually base yourself, where you should stay in terms of the area of town to set yourself up for success. So there are kind of 7 main areas where tourists would likely end up staying. The first one is Östermalm, and it is a wonderful place. It is a bit pricey, definitely a bougie spot if you can afford it. There's not going to be anything wrong with it, great, but most people, especially if you're looking to save the money, it's probably not going to be the best fit for you. The next area that you might consider staying is Norrmalm, and Norrmalm is kind of like the main business district. There's nothing wrong with it. It'll give you great access to Central Station if that's something that you're looking for, and it will have you pretty central. In my opinion, it's not the prettiest. It is a bit touristy, and there's just nothing, let's say, too charming about it, which you'll find in a lot of the other neighborhoods. So it wouldn't be my top pick, but there's nothing wrong with it. It might be a bit pricey as well, though. Now, if you are looking for charming, no place is going to be better than Gamla Stan, and that is the Old Town. That's where most of the tourists are going to want to be, and you're definitely going to have a lot of foot traffic there because it is just stunning. I don't feel like you have to actually stay there. Completely fine place to stay, but you are going to pay a premium price, and it is so easily accessible from most of these other spots that I definitely wouldn't recommend it unless you have the cash and you're just wanting that like top tier experience of being right in the Old Town. But it really is charming, super cute. Next place is this whole island. This is where all the nature is. Realistically, you could stay there, but I don't think it'd provide for the best experience. You have the least amount of public transit that goes over there, so you're going to want to make sure that you can get there, which is mostly going to happen via this bridge. You can also take a ferry over, but you'll want to spend time there. I would kind of cross it out as considering to stay there, especially if it's your first time in Stockholm. That leaves a couple more spots. The first is Vasastan, and we already mentioned this when we talked about that really good bakery. It is a little bit farther outside of like the city center. You're still going to have great access with the public transit, and you could walk it. It would take you a bit of time. Now, the pros to this area is it's really residential, it's very safe, and it is definitely going to be a little bit cheaper. Now, if everything about Vasastan minus the distance to like the center Old Town sounds good to you, then Kungsholmen might be a spot that would interest you. It is also pretty residential, but it is closer to the center of the action. There's also great public transit there as well, and some of those great walking paths. So it is residential, definitely a spot to check out. It will be a little bit more expensive than a Vasastan though. And then the last place is Södermalm, and this is the place where it's the southern island. It is really, really big, but there's a lot going on here. This is kind of where you're going to find that arty, younger crowd. It's definitely going to be a little bit more affordable. It's going to feel like it's a bit gritty at times. There's some good nightlife. There's a lot to explore, and honestly, you could spend an entire weekend in Stockholm just exploring that island. Now, I chose to stay right at the north end of Södermalm. That way I had really easy access to everything else, but I also was technically paying those cheaper prices over in Södermalm, and it was a great experience for me. So if you do want just kind of my unfiltered thoughts on some of the cultural things that I recognized when I was in Stockholm, I made a whole video. You can watch that here. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I hope this was helpful, and we'll catch you guys next time.